Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. I'm Eric Bowling. I'm in for Glenn, who's under the weather. I'm going to explain this. You see this? $60 billion, $60 billion. That's a payoff. That's a bribe. That's what the unions are getting. Who signed it? Barack Obama signed it, and guess what else? We both signed it. The U.S. taxpayer signed it as well. We're going to get more into it. Michelle Malkin's up with us today. Brian Darling, Mr. Cannon, the judge. Father Morris is here. He's going to weigh in on what's going on in Haiti, and also Tom Borelli. Come on, let's go check this out. Hello, America. I'm Eric Bowling, standing in for Glenn tonight. First up, a new poll out today suggesting the Senate seat in Massachusetts is up for grabs. What? In progressive Massachusetts, that's right. The poll shows Republican Scott Brown with a slight edge over Democrat Martha Coakley in the race to fill the late Ted Kennedy's seat. Wait a minute. I mean the seat that belongs to the good people of Massachusetts. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Ready for this? The seat could be the difference between Democrats having a 60-vote supermajority and the GOP being able to filibuster health care reform. Let's get right to it with Michelle Malkin. She's a syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor. Michelle, you heard it. You heard the setup. Boy, this seat means a lot, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, and the Democrats are in full freak-out mode now. Robert Gibbs announced this afternoon that President Obama is going to be heading up to Massachusetts to try and salvage this very important seat for them. And I think it is obviously a sign of great desperation. I've joked about Obama's reverse Midas touch, Eric. He has had a bad streak when it comes to trying to rescue things. He traveled across the pond to try and rescue the Olympics for Chicago. Didn't work out. He tried to do it for global warming in Copenhagen. Didn't work out. And let's look at domestically. 3 times he campaigned for the loser Democrat Governor John Corzine in New Jersey. So a lot of conservatives are probably hoping and praying and very glad that President Obama is going to be traveling up there.
Michelle, I was a little surprised. He announced that this afternoon. Major Garrett reporting around 1 o'clock in the afternoon saying that he's going to travel on Sunday. That's on the heels of Bill Clinton. I guess he's going to spend Friday and Saturday there as well. Let's put it this way. If he does travel there, and if he does stump and campaign for Coakley, and she loses, what does that say for health care?
Well, it is a lose-lose situation for this president because, of course, the progressives are demanding that he go up there and try and rescue the health care effort. We know that they need this supermajority, and we know that the clock is ticking, and this is really at the root of the freakout. It is January 15th now. If there are no shenanigans and in the incredible and miraculous likelihood or possibility that Scott Brown would win, he would be seated January 29th. That is not a lot of time for these Democrats to finish all of their backroom deals, wrap it up, and ram it down our throats. And that is why they are in this full alarm.
Well, Michelle, you know, there's been some speculation as to whether, even if Scott Brown, the Republican, does win the seat, whether or not they were going to go ahead and try and delay his seating. Now, Barney Frank came out and mentioned today, I guess he said that would be ridiculous. I think he said it would be the stupidest thing he's ever heard. But you know, could they make a case for, hey, we have to count all these absentee ballots, we're not sure where they are, we have to make sure there's not 300 or 400 votes over there? Is that possible that they could actually delay a seating post-health care vote?
Well, we have to take everything that these Democrats say with a grain of salt. The Secretary of State of Massachusetts said that they will maintain that 10-day period, that 10-day window that is the norm for counting overseas ballots, military ballots, making sure that there's no fraud, and certifying this election. But look, the culture of corruption has seeped into this entire process from the very beginning. Remember, right after Ted Kennedy passed away, they flipped the script and they broke all the rules. It was the Democrats who had demanded this special election setup for open seats. They did that when John Kerry was running, Mitt Romney was governor. They wanted to rig the game then. So they've done it all along. What's to stop them from doing it again? It's their second nature.
Michelle, I think it's been something like 38 years since a Republican or GOPers has held a Senate seat in Massachusetts. What would that say? I mean, is this going to be the New York 23 version a couple of months later for the November 2nd vote, 2010, the big vote coming down, midterm elections?
Well, I'll tell you this, Eric. I think that there's something exquisitely poetic about this taking place in Massachusetts. After years' worth of the burgeoning Tea Party movement, for it to happen in the home where the shot was heard round the world, this is an entirely new shot heard round the world. The fact is that, I mean, there are conservatives across the country who've united behind this candidate who promises to be the 41st vote to stop this Demcare takeover and to really send a huge message against the bribes, the payoffs, the backroom deals, the Chicago way on the Potomac. And we understand, those of us who are to the right of Scott Brown, that he is not as conservative as many of us would like. It's Massachusetts, that's how things go. But when it comes to these core fiscal issues, you can unite every stripe of conservative Republican, and as we're seeing in all these polls, Eric, a massive amount of independence.
Michelle, we're running out of time. Two points in this race that were kind of game changers for me. Number one, when Scott Brown said, by the way, sir, that seat is the good seat, the seat of the good people of Massachusetts, not Ted Kennedy's vacated seat, number one. And number two, when the reporter who was trying just to get a quote from Coakley got thrown down by one of her aides, you know, it seems like those two were kind of momentous. Is that enough? Is that going to push Scott Brown to win this vote?
Well, I think that, coupled with Martha Coakley's own blunder mania, her tongue, her listlessness, and her sense of entitlement, all of this is a huge metaphor for what we've seen over the last year of Democrats taking their own base for granted and taking the American people's principles for granted.
All right, Michelle, stay with us. The Bay State race set to impact health care reform. How's it doing that? Let's bring in our health care panel. We have Michael Cannon. He's the Director of Health Policy Studies at the Cato Institute, and Brian Darling, he's here. He's the Director of Senate Relations at the Heritage Foundation. Brian, let me start with you, sir. Tell me where you stand on this race. I mean, is this, you know, the one snapshot that says America either wants health care or doesn't want health care, and we're going to find out Tuesday, I guess around 7 or 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time?
Well, this is a blue state referendum on Obamacare, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out in Massachusetts, the bastion of liberalism, a state that I'm from. And I'm as surprised as anybody that somebody like Scott Brown, who wasn't all that well known in the state, can come out of nowhere and do so well against a more well-known candidate like Martha Coakley. So this is an amazing referendum in a liberal state to see how liberals feel about Obamacare.
Mike, do you find, were you shocked? I was very surprised to see Obama saying he's going to travel there on Sunday. Were you surprised as well? He's basically putting his DNA on this race. Bad idea, good idea for him?
Well, I don't know if it's going to work out the way the president wants, but consider that our entire system of government exists to prevent what the president is trying to do right now, which is to pass a sweeping, to have a temporary majority pass a sweeping and unpopular piece of legislation without due consideration. And the key to that strategy is for him to have 60 votes in the Senate. So it makes sense that his base is telling him to go up there and that he's going up there and trying to win this race. But even if the Republican Scott Brown loses, I think that the tightness of this race should give Congress pause and tell them they should slow down, give the American public more time to digest this legislation.
All right, Michelle, I held up a blank, not a blank check, I held up a $60 billion check on the opening. It's written to the unions, and it's signed by Barack Obama, and it's also co-signed by the American taxpayer. The reason why I did that is let me take a quick timeline. On Monday, the president met with some of the leaders of labor, organized labor, the unions. They came out of that meeting, and the president said that tax, that Cadillac tax, that tax on premium health care plans was going to be in place. That was Monday. On Tuesday, those same leaders met with Reid and Pelosi, and they struck a deal. As of last night, the deal was, if you're part of a union, you're going to take a piece of this $60 billion of taxpayer money. That means you're not going to get taxed until 2018 on your Cadillac plan, while the rest of us, anyone else who has a Cadillac plan, a premium plan, are going to pick up the tab or another tax. Talk about the transparency going on here.
Well, there is none, of course, Eric, and this Purple Army payoff is the most noxious example over the past year of how this administration operates. The Service Employees International Union, which we've talked about endlessly on this show, which is, not the kind of scrutiny that they're getting in the mainstream media, gave $60 to $80 million to Obama and the Democrats to get elected to office and do their bidding, which is exactly what they're doing now. And I have to say that I think that the big lie is that this thing will expire in 2018. You know that over the next 8 or 10 years that Andy Stern, Mr. Persuasion of Power, is going to spend that next 8 to 10 years ensuring that this temporary entitlement becomes permanent.
Brian, $27.5 million the SEIU gave in support of Obama in the 2008 election cycle. They also spent $3 million against McCain. I'm not sure how that worked. Comes out to about $30 million.